Microphone working? Is that better? Okay. Welcome to our weekly City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll to ascertain the presence of a quorum?
Thank you, Madam President. Councillor Baker. Here. Councillor Campbell. Here. Councillor Siomo. Councillor Asabi George. Present. Councillor Flaherty. Here. Councillor Jackson. Here. Councillor Lamatina. Here. Councillor Linehan. Here. Councillor McCarthy. Here. Councillor O'Malley. Present. Councillor Presley. Councillor Wu. Present. And Councillor Zakem. Madam President, everyone is here.
Thank you very much. We have a full house. At this time, I'd like to ask Councillor O'Malley to join me up here at the podium. Councillor O'Malley will introduce our faith leader to deliver today's invocation. If everyone could please rise and join us for that. And Father, please come up as well. And after the invocation, please remain standing, and Councillor O'Malley will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam President. I am so delighted to once again invite my dear friend and the pastor of my parish, St. John Chrysostom, Father John Carroll, to offer the opening prayer today. Father Carroll has been at St. John's now for just about 2 years, just under 2 years, and he's done some remarkable work at our little parish in terms of improving not only the physical plant of the church itself, but ushering in a beautiful peace garden dedicated to an associate pastor whom we lost earlier this year, Father Charlie Flaherty. He's also really helped build community. He does simple suppers in Lent. He's organized countless trips, including one to France next year. If you want to go, you can still sign up. And he's just a great faith leader who's no stranger to this city. In the 80s and 90s, he was the chaplain for Mass General Hospital and many of the Longwood medical area hospitals. He's done enormous, great work. He truly gets it. He's someone that I'm proud to call a real spiritual leader and mentor and a dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the pastor of St. John Chrysostom, Father John Carroll.
Great, thank you, man. After that, I think I should be running for something, you know? Nice to be here, Matt. Thank you. Shall we pray? Lord, you have entrusted us as stewards of your creation. Guide our hearts as we make decisions serving all your people. Open our minds so that we may receive your eternal wisdom. Open our spirit that we may know your leadership and guidance. Open our hearts so that we may receive your wonderful love. As we stand in the cradle of liberty, and as many meeting and decision have been made in revolutionary days, and many orators have spoken, let us be mindful of our historic roots and the voice of the people. Help us to understand that while we can't always walk in the shoes of others, we can listen to all people and open ourselves to their needs. We seek you first in all that we do together. May we always be mindful that the service we perform is for your people. Help us not to fail those who entrust us with our position. Help us to realize that it is only in serving one another that we come to learn true leadership, knowing fully that the God of our understanding is foremost the leader of this assembly. Help us to be inclusive in our awareness of all, whether it be race, gender, orientation, and religion. It is not religious identity that matters. It's about who we are under your protection. May your blessing be upon us and all as we work for the common good. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, let me just grab it.
Thank you so much, Father. Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. We'll keep Councillor O'Malley up here. We have two special presentations before the start of formal business. And the first, again, Councillor O'Malley.
Thank you again, Madam President. I'd like to invite Tom Dillon to please join me up on the dais. Tom is a resident and a constituent of mine of West Roxbury. He's lived in West Roxbury for the last 24 years. Before that, he was in South Boston. And on Tuesday, June 6th, at around 1 a.m., Tom was sleeping when his daughter came into his room, woke him up and said, "There's a fire." Tom immediately jumped out of bed and went to assess. First, he thought it may have been his house. Then he realized that it was actually his neighbor's home, the McNultys, an elderly couple. Despite the fact that he has no experience as a firefighter, Tom ran into a burning building, a burning home, saw and checked on his two elderly neighbors. They sometimes have difficulty moving, so he literally carried them out and carried them to safety. You're not going to, unfortunately, read about Tom's story in the newspaper, but I wanted to bring him by the council today just to recognize what a truly great man he is. You know, I was asking him sort of what was going through his mind, why he did it, and he just simply said it was the right thing to do. There was danger, there was someone in trouble, and he leapt to action. At a time when many people may be running away from danger, Tom really exemplifies that spirit of Boston Strong and of looking out and taking care of your neighbors. So I wanted to invite him in and present him with this council resolution on behalf of all 12 of my colleagues that simply reads, "The Boston City Council extends its congratulations to Tom Dillon in recognition of his courage and bravery as a citizen and as a neighbor in the city of Boston." Tom, thank you for what you did. Thank you for the lives that you literally saved. You are a credit to this city and a credit to our neighborhood. You want to say a couple words?
Thank you, everybody. Glad to help out.
A man of few words, but we'll do a quick picture. Could all my colleagues please join us for a picture? Tom's a man of very few words, but great action, and we're very grateful for all he's done.
Keep it simple, that's all.
Good, yeah.
This is my sister, Michelle.
No, I'm sure you should. Your family.
Thank you,
Great
guys.
this.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in. Congratulations.
Can you move in next to me?
Sure. You're a bigger guy.
Great guy. All right, you're free to go. Go take everyone else.
And now if Councillor Jackson could join us for our second presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Wu, and I'd like to thank everyone in attendance. There's a great importance to this space that we are in. As Councillor Linehan let us know when we first met here, that the council had not met here since 1822. And I know Councillor Linehan was not on the council then. But he he did state it as a fact, and it is weighty for me to stand here because in 1822, my ancestors were not considered men, were not considered women, they were not considered citizens, they were considered property. So it is not lost on me that I am the dream and the hope of a slave. And that when I stand in this presence and at this dais and in this hall, that I actually am a connection to that heritage and lineage. And I also stand here as a black man with the opportunity to give acknowledgement, propers, and the love, respect, dignity, and honor that Afro-Latina women deserve. And today, and I would like them to approach Yvette, as well as all of the women from your organization can come forward. Let's give it up for them. And I'll be brief, but in my research, what I found out is there's about 11.5 million souls that made it through the Middle Passage. And for those of you who don't know what the Middle Passage is, we know that chattel slavery was present in, actually, it was first legal in our colony, but many didn't make it, and many died in their voyage to this land. Out of the 11.5 million slaves who came through, only 450,000 came to the United States. All of the rest were deposited below Miami. And so I think it is important, and I am eternally thankful for being given the opportunity to do this today, to acknowledge not only Afro women, but Afro-Latina American women who, based on his story, have been written out of our story. Women's voices have not been heard. The voices of people of color have not been heard, and the voices of Latina women have not been heard. And so today, it is our time, it is our chance, and it is our body's opportunity to ensure that these voices, important voices, are heard. And before I bring them up, I want to note we have a brother who's overlooking us right now, Frederick Douglass. And he said something that I believe these women represent. He said that I prayed for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs. These sisters, these Afro-Latina, strong, bright, amazing, awesome Afro-Caribbean women who are from our diaspora are here to have their voices heard, and we will let that happen today.
Morning, everyone. Giving thanks to the ancestors and those whose shoulders we stand on today. Thank you to City Councilor Tito Jackson for always including the voice of the African Latina. Thank you to the City Council for supporting this resolution. Thanks to my family, my mother for her guiding light, my father for his love, my sister and my brother for their ongoing support. To the founders of the Red de Mujeres Afro, to Dorotea, Paola, Cecilia, Ingrid, Doña Berta, Vicenta, and all their inspiring hermanas, felicidades. Gracias por su inspiración. To the queens that stand here with me, Gwendolyn McCoy, Atia Martin, Ann Mondersir, and Lenice. Thank you. Adupe. Gracias. Love you. To those who have guided me and supported me here in Boston, much love and admiration. To the Guerreros, co-founders of ARAC, the Regional Council of People of African Descent in Latin America and the Caribbean, Damani Aquil and Jesus Chucho Garcia, gracias, hermanos. Mujeres Afro, Afro-Latinas, Africanas, párense y digan presente. Presente. Black queens, African queens, diaspora queens, rise up and say present. Ashe, ashe. Ashe, ashe. Today we celebrate our truth, our light. The Red de Mujeres Afro was founded in 1992 to demand our space and raise our voice. Encuentro Diaspora Afro was founded in Boston in 2004 to speak our truth, my truth, and rise and shine in our Africanness, in our blackness. ARAC was founded in October 2006 to place Africa at the center of the Latin America and Caribbean experience. Today, we are 200 million plus in the region. We are still demanding our space and speaking our truth. Let us continue demanding and speaking our truth as African-descended women, Black women, African women, Afro-Latina women in the Americas. Let us rise today and every day, proud of our roots, proud of our melanin. May we continue to walk together on this journey. May we see and embrace the light in each other. Ashe. Gracias.
And I'd like to read the resolve, and I want to acknowledge that we have come a long way as our body. We have 3 women on our body that are from the African diaspora. I want to acknowledge Counselor the First, and I think we sometimes forget this. And I know we just breeze past this stuff, and in the over 100-year history, Counselor Ayanna Pressley was and is the first woman of color on the Boston City Council. Let's acknowledge her. And she is present and accounted for. And we have 2 other sisters on this body, Counselor Andrea Campbell, as well as Counselor Anissa Asabi George. And for that matter, I believe it is also important that we acknowledge the first Asian American as president of the Boston City Council, Councilor Michelle Wu. With that said, it gives me such great honor to read this resolve, and this was unanimous as a council. We're not always unanimous as a council, but this was unanimous as a council. Be it resolved that the Boston City Council, in meeting assembled, proclaims the 25th of July, 2017 as Afro-Latin American, Afro-Caribbean Diaspora Women's Day in the city of Boston. Congratulations. If I open this, hold on a second. Okay, cool. I didn't want to hurt the officer with a button.
So proceeding with our formal business of the day, we'll start with approval of the minutes from last meeting. Are there any edits or amendments? Seeing and hearing none, the minutes stand approved. And we'll begin with communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Docket number 1049, message and order transferring the custody, care, management, and control of certain city-owned parcels located at Sleeper Street and Seaport Boulevard to the Parks and Recreation Department for the design and construction of Martins Park in the Seaport District.
Docket 1049 will be assigned to the Committee on Planning and Development. Oh, apologies, a new system here. Councilor Linehan, Chairman of the committee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that we suspend and pass this matter today. This is basically a transfer of property from city agencies to the Boston Parks and Recreation Department so that they can design and construct the Martin Richards Park in the Seaport District. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Linehan. As this is around care, custody, and control of a city parcel, it requires a roll call vote. Councilor Linehan at this time has moved for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1049. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Baker? Yes. Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell? Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Siomo? Yes. Councilor Siomo, yes. Councilor Asabi George? Yes. Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty? Yes. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Jackson? Yes. Councilor Jackson, yes. Councilor LaMattina?
Yes.
Councilor LaMattina, yes. Councilor Linehan?
Yes.
Councilor Linehan, yes. Councilor McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy, yes. Councilor O'Malley?
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. Councilor Presley? Yes. Councilor Presley, yes. Councilor Wu?
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. And Councilor Zakem? Yes. Councilor Zakem, yes. Madam President, docket number 1049 was passed unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 1049 has passed with unanimous vote.
Docket number 1050, message and order authorizing the Boston Public Library Department to accept and expend a capital grant of $5,597,374 from the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program, known as MPLCP, per the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners for the renovation of the Dudley Branch Library.
Docket number 1050 will be assigned to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Docket number 1051, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant of $3,253,317 for the FY18 Public Safety Answering Point, known as PSAP, Support and Incentive Grant, awarded by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to be administered by the Police Department. The grant will fund the cost associated with providing enhanced 911 services.
Docket number 1051 will be assigned to the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice.
Docket number 1052, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant of $857,375 for the FY18 Success Link Employment Program, formerly known as YouthWorks, awarded by the Mass Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development, passed through the Economic Development and Industrial Corporation of Boston, to be administered by the Youth Engagement and Employment. The grant will fund hiring at-risk youth for placement at various community-based organizations around Boston.
Docket number 1052 will be assigned to the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities.
Docket number 1053, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant of $684,121 for the FY18 State 9/11 Training Grant Award by the Mass Executive Office of Public Safety to be administered by the Police Department. The grant will fund training and certification of enhanced 911 telecommunication staff.
Docket number 1053 will be assigned to the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice.
Docket number 1054, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant of $447,863 for the Jobs Access and Reverse Commute Program awarded by the United States Department of Transportation, passed through the Massachusetts Department of Transportation to be administered by the Boston Transportation Department. The grant will fund the City of Boston Neighborhood Mobility Micro Hubs project.
Docket number 1054 will be assigned to the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Transportation.
Docket number 1055, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant of $300 from Ursuline Academy for community outreach programs to be administered by the Police Department.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that we suspend the rules and pass docket number 1055 in the amount of $300, which was received from Ursuline Academy, and it's to go to the Police Department for community outreach programs, which is pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, is there any other comment? Seeing none, Councillor Campbell moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1055. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1055 has been passed.
Docket number 1056, message and order for confirmation of the renewal appointments of constables authorized to serve civil process upon the filing of their bonds for the period commencing May 1st, 2017 and ending April 30th, 2020.
Chair moves for suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1056 as per our usual approval process for the renewal appointment of constables. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1056 has been passed. Before we move on to reports of public officers and others, Councillor Baker, you have the floor.
Madam President, I'd like to move to reconsider docket number 1052 to see if we could possibly have a joint hearing in Jobs and Wages, which is my committee, and Healthy Women and Families.
Thank you. Any objections from Councillor Presley? So, Madam Clerk, if we could reclassify docket number 1052 as jointly assigned to the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities, as well as the Committee on Jobs, Wages, and Workforce Development. Thank you, Councillor Baker.
Thank you.
Reports of public officers and others.
Docket number 1057, the constable bond of Slem Petit Montre has been duly approved by the collector treasurer, was received.
Any comments on this one? The chair will move for approval under the usual terms and conditions, as we have done with the other constable bonds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Docket number 1057 has been approved under the usual terms and conditions.
Docket number 1058, notice was received from the mayor of his absence from the city from 2:00 p.m. on Wednesday, July 26th until 11 a.m. on Friday, July 28th, 2017.
Docket 1058 will be placed on file.
Docket number 1059, communication was received from Brian P. Golden, Director of the Boston Planning and Development Agency, regarding proposed minor modifications to the West End Land Assembly and Redevelopment Plan project, number UR-Mass.2.3, with respect to parcel 2-1E and 1F.
Docket 1059 will also be placed on file. Reports of committees.
Docket number 0123, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on January 11th, 2017, docket number 0123, an ordinance creating the Community Preservation Committee, submits a report recommending the ordinance ought to pass in a new draft.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Government Operations, Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I begin, I'm moving for substitution of the committee report and the amended draft to reflect the reference to Boston Housing Authority as opposed to the Boston Housing Authority Monitoring Committee, as well as some other minor technical changes.
Everybody has the language in front of them, the newly revised language with the technical changes. Any objection to the substitution? So, hearing none, the new committee report and language is now under consideration for docket 0123.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket 0123, an ordinance creating the Community Preservation Committee, was sponsored by Councilor Andrea Campbell and I, and referred to the Committee on Government Operations back on January 11th of 2017. This ordinance seeks to establish the Community Preservation Committee as required by state law, Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, to make recommendations regarding the use of funds generated by the 1% surcharge on real property in the city of Boston. The proposal establishes the CPC's function, membership, appointment, term, powers, and duties. Docket 0123 requires that the CPC study the needs of Boston regarding community preservation, evaluate community preservation needs of the city, and make recommendations for expenditures from the Community Preservation Fund. Under the terms of the proposal, the CPC would consist of 9 members, 5 of which would be appointed as required under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 5, and 4 members appointed by the Boston City Council. The committee held a hearing on March 23, 2017, and at the hearing, there was consensus that the following factors should be considered when appointing the CPC members: community preservation, community representation, racial, economic, and neighborhood diversity, as well as experience in finance, business, and construction. Testifying on behalf of the administration was Sheila Dillon, Chief of Department of Neighborhood Development, Chief Austin Blackman, Commissioner Chris Cook, and Director Roseanne Foley. They offered comments that discussed the use of community preservation funds in the areas of historic preservation, open space, recreational use, and housing. Panels representing community organization and businesses offered comments concerning the composition of the CPC, along with the emphasis on community involvement in a full and public transparent process. Sam Tyler from the Municipal Research Bureau offered comments stating that at least one member of the CPC should be a representative from the business community, given that he explained that businesses pay the highest property taxes, contribute to the quality of life in the city, and recognize the importance of housing in Boston, and would be impartial in allocating funds. Public testimony emphasized transparency and community involvement, along with consideration for using the funds. The committee hearing was followed up with a working session on May 15, 2017. At the working session, the committee reviewed proposed amendments to the initial proposed ordinance relating to clarification of the appointment process by the City Council, the composition and representation of members of the CPC, and the language specifying diversity. Concerns were also expressed with naming specific organizations in an ordinance and with having one organization as the sole entity for recommending appointments. The administration discussed the appropriate process for the CPA funds. Representatives from Yes for a Better Boston supported having their organization submit names to the City Council for appointment and having the CPC meetings in the evenings. Representatives from the business community, including Sam Tyler, again from the Boston Municipal Research Bureau, attended the working sessions. The business community representatives explained that they should have representation on the CPC and to take into consideration individuals with experience in real estate, housing, finance, development, and/or construction. Based upon information obtained at the hearing and the working session, I am recommending amendments to docket 0123, which include the following. Section 8-12.4A, concerning the membership appointment and term of the CPC, expressly lists the city's entities that will have representation on the CPC: the Boston Conservation Commission, the Boston Landmarks Commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Boston Redevelopment Authority doing business as the Boston Planning and Development Agency, and the Boston Housing Authority. Section 8-12.4BA provides the methodology for the City Council's appointment of 4 additional members through the creation of a special City Council committee which will take applications and consider certain areas of expertise and community ties. Section 8-12.4C requires the CPC be residents of Boston at the time of and for the duration of their appointment. Section 8-12.5 provides a more expansive powers and duties section, which includes language about citizen participation and CPC reporting requirements. Section 8-12.6 contains provisions that provide for rules and regulations of the CPC and includes conflict of interest language. Section 8-12.7 is a new section that provides for fiscal responsibility to ensure that the CPA funds are not meant to replace existing operating funds, but to augment such funds. These amendments ensure open and transparent process throughout the establishment of the City Council Special Committee for appointment purposes, allows for a diverse CPC that is reflective of the community involvement and participation, and the Rules and Regulations section encourages community engagement, while the fiscal responsibility provision provides accountability. Having a representative that has experience in finance and development, as well as individuals that exhibit an expertise in certain areas, such as open space, creation of housing, and historical preservation, will ensure viable projects and efficient use of CPA funds consistent with the spirit and the intent of the CPA. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank colleagues, in particular co-sponsor Councilor Campbell, and also our chair, Council President Wu, along with folks from Why Better Boston, the business community, and folks like Tom Callahan, who've spent a tremendous amount of time on this effort over the last decade. As chair of the Committee on Government Operations, with respect to docket 0123, an ordinance creating Community Preservation Committee, I'm submitting a report recommending that this docket ought to pass in a new draft, and through the chair, turn it over to our colleague and co-sponsor, Councilor Campbell, for any further comments.
Thank you,
Madam
Councilor
President.
Flaherty. Councilor Campbell, you have the floor.
And thank you, Councilor Flaherty. This has been a long and I think thorough process, and I want to thank Councilor Flaherty for his hard work. He started this probably 10 years ago before I got here, so thank you, Councilor Flaherty, for the partnership. Thank you, Madam President, for your input and hard work as well. I have to give a shout out to Christine, who's sitting in the front row, for all her hard work from central staff, all the edits, the last minute edits, some of which came in today. She made sure that they were incorporated in the final draft. I want to thank my colleagues. I mean, this, for example, obviously was something that had to be passed through a ballot initiative. So we wouldn't be here if my colleagues didn't support the CPA from the outset. So thank you guys as well. Thank you to Yes for Better Boston, the advocates, Tom. Literally, this has been a compromising process where we've come together and actually talked through a lot of different issues to ensure that we got an ordinance that was fair, that was transparent, that talked about issues of equity and diversity, and we could not have done that alone. So I really want to acknowledge the advocates in the room, those who could not participate today, who could not show up today, but who also made sure their voices were heard. We received a lot of emails, a lot of calls from with suggested edits, and we took those very seriously. Not everyone was satisfied, but at the end of the day, we all ended committed to making sure that this process remains transparent, that also this process continues to involve residents and continues to make sure that the voices of the residents of the city of Boston are made a part of this process going forward, not just when it comes to the amount of monies that are going to be spent and the types of projects, but more importantly, that they're always going to be heard when it comes to matters pertaining to the CPA. Lastly, I want to thank the staff in Councilor Flaherty's office, Shake in particular, my staff who worked with Christine, the back and forth, the staff from President Wu's office as well. They often don't get the credit they deserve. We don't pay them a lot of money. We should probably pay them more. So maybe in the next budget cycle, we can get some more money in the council budget to do that. But I want to thank the staff because they put in a lot of hard work as well. So thank you, and thank you, Councilor Flaherty, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Would anyone else like to speak on this? At this time, Councilor Flaherty moves for acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0123 in a new draft. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Docket 0123 has been passed in a new draft. Matters recently heard for possible action.
Docket number 1001, message and order approving appropriation of $600,000 for the purpose of paying for the costs of a feasibility study and schematic design work associated with projects at the following schools: East Boston High School, boiler replacement; O'Donnell School, K through 5, boiler replacement; Sumner School, K through 5, boiler replacement; Timilty Middle School, boiler replacement; Tobin School, K through 8, boiler replacement; Up Academy, K through 8, window replacement; and the Russell School, K through 5, roof replacement. This includes the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and for which the City of Boston may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, known as MSBA, said amount to be expended under the direction of the Public Facilities Department on behalf of the Boston Public Schools.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Councilor Siomo.
Thank you, Madam President. We held a hearing this past Monday on July 31st. We had testimony provided by Brian McLaughlin, the Assistant Director of Operations for Property and Construction Management, on the matter. The appropriation in the amount of $600,000 will pay for a feasibility study and schematic design work at the following schools: East Boston for boilers, O'Donnell, Sumner, Timilty, and the Tobin are all getting boiler replacements. Up Academy, K-8 window replacement, as well as the Russell K-5 with a roof replacement. This includes the payment of all costs incidental or related to which the City of Boston may be eligible for a grant from the Mass School Building Authority, which defines the scope, budget, and schedule of the proposed projects. This is, again, another accelerated repair program that we've been availing ourselves of many times over the past several years. The reimbursement from MSBA will be approximately 65% of the total cost. These repairs will not only extend the useful life of the schools and preserve BPS assets, but also provide a comfortable and pleasant environment more conducive to learning. They will also provide energy-efficient and cost-saving upgrades, which will result in direct operational savings for the school district. For these reasons, I recommend docket 1001 to be read for the first time and assigned for further action.
Thank you, Councilor Siomo. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll for the first reading on docket 1001.
Docket number 1001. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Siomo.
Yes.
Councilor Siomo, yes. Councilor Asabi George. Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Jackson. Councilor Jackson, yes. Councilor Lamatina.
Yes.
Councilor Lamatina, yes. Councilor Linehan.
Yes.
Councilor Linehan, yes. Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. Councilor Presley. Councilor Presley, yes. Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. And Councilor Zachem. Councilor Zachem, yes. Madam President, docket number 1001 received a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Docket 1001 has received a unanimous first reading and is assigned for further action.
Docket number 1002, message and order approving an increase of the cost of living adjustment known as COLA base from the $13,000 to $14,000 for all retirees and beneficiaries of the Boston retirement system.
Chair again recognizes Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, Councilor Siomo.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. We also held this hearing this past Monday on July 31st. We had Ellen McCarthy, the interim comptroller, Parag Leiden, the general counsel, and Tim Smith, executive officer for the Boston Retirement System, give testimony. This order proposes to increase the maximum base amount upon which the cost of living adjustment is calculated. The last time the base was adjusted was in 2012, when it went from $12,000 to $13,000. The COLA is currently, the Boston remains fiscally prudent, paying down its pension debt on an aggressive schedule to be fully funded by 2025, and also makes a commitment to paying down the OPEB debt. It is within our means to increase the base amount to $14,000 to provide modest relief to our many retirees living on fixed incomes. Therefore, I recommend docket 1002 ought to pass.
Thank you, Councilor Siomo. Would anyone else like to speak on this? At this time, Councilor Siomo moves for passage of docket 1002. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1002 has been passed. Councilor Baker.
Have the record state that.
Madam Clerk, could you please reflect that on docket 1002, Councilor Baker has abstained. Motions, orders, and resolutions.
Docket number 1060, Councilor O'Malley offered the following resolution in support of the Massachusetts House Bill 2474 and Senate Bill 1169, an act authorizing dental therapists to expand access to oral health.
Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today I am urging our... I am your father, Luke. How's that? A little bit better? Okay. I have a resolution today in support of House Bill 2474 and Senate Bill 1169. These are two pieces of legislation that would allow dental therapists to provide basic and critical care to underserved patients throughout the Commonwealth. Access to dental care is a public health crisis, not just throughout the country, but in our Commonwealth and in the city of Boston. In Massachusetts, in our Commonwealth, 530,000 people live in areas that have shortages of dentists. In Suffolk County alone, which is mainly Boston as well as the neighboring towns of Chelsea, Winthrop, and Revere, third-grade children suffer unmet dental needs at more than 2 times the rate of surrounding suburban communities. This is indeed a public health crisis. Now, research by the Pew Charitable Trust, which I put in all of your mailboxes, has found that disparities in dental care exist on multiple fronts. In 2009, 59% of seniors in long-term care were found to have untreated decay. In 2014, low-income seniors were 7 times as more likely to have lost all of their teeth than their peers with household incomes exceeding $75,000. African-American seniors were twice as likely as white counterparts to have lost their teeth. 30% of Massachusetts adults living with disabilities were missing 6 or more teeth in 2014, compared to 10% of those without disabilities. In 2015, 44% of children enrolled in Mass Health did not see a dentist. The designation of dental therapists is not aimed at superseding or usurping the work of dental practitioners. Indeed, Councilors McCarthy, Wu, and myself share the dentist, and I think he is the greatest in the land. I'm sure they would agree. But what these dental health therapists would do would fill critical gaps in treatment for the Commonwealth's patient population. It's a gap that needs immediate attention, considering that more than 60% of dentists fail to take patients on Mass Health, and only 26% billed at least $10,000 in 2014. And this is one of the statistics that I've discovered in my research, which is so staggering. Visits to emergency rooms for oral health issues in the Commonwealth cost our healthcare system an estimated $15 to $36 million in 2014. To put that in perspective, 1 out of every 5 visits this weekend to an emergency room will be because of dental pain. Now, there are no dentists in emergency rooms, so what happens when someone goes to an emergency room? Typically, they finally see a doctor and oftentimes are given a prescription opiate to deal with the pain. This is another way that we are not being smart, not being aggressive as we talk about fighting addiction. As we examine healthcare policy nationwide and in the Commonwealth, it's critical to find ways to expand care in cost-effective ways. States and localities need to be able to spot these holes in the system and get creative in filling them. Similar programs in Minnesota, Maine, Vermont, and Alaska have delivered results for the most vulnerable people in their states. In Alaska, dental therapists have been able to deliver dental care for 40,000 more people across 81 communities. Savings gained from utilizing dental therapists have allowed Minnesota dental practitioners to begin to take on more Medicaid patients and the uninsured. I want to thank the lead sponsors of these 2 ordinances, or these 2 laws at the state level, Senator Harley Chandler, as well as State Representatives Kate Hogan and Smitty Pignatelli. I'd like to thank the Pew Charitable Trust for their great work on this. And most importantly, I'd like to thank my friend and my constituent, a friend to everyone on this body, Horace Small from the Union of Minority Neighborhoods, who brought this to my attention, has been doing great work, and is telling me not to acknowledge him so much, but he does great work. So I ask now for suspension of the rules and adoption of Docket 1060, and hope that we can get this resolution for these 2 bills up to the State House post-haste. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. At this time, Councilor Sabi George, you have the floor. Would you like to sign on? Madam Clerk, could you please add Councilor Sabi George's name? Please add Councilor Siomo, Councilor Campbell, Councilor Baker, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Jackson. Please add Councilor LaMattina, Councilor Linehan, Councilor McCarthy, Councilor Presley, Councilor Zakem. You want to speak? Please add the chair's name. And Councilor Presley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Councilor Baker.
All right. Okay. All right. I just want to thank Councilor O'Malley and Horace Small for bringing this to Councilor O'Malley. I've been on this council for 8 years, and as you're all aware, I've been advocating for a nurse in every Boston public school. And whenever I visit a school, the first place I go is the school nurse's office, because you learn a lot about the challenges that our children are faced with once they cross that threshold, what they're living with. And this was the number one issue that every school nurse raised. Honestly, the number one. This is such a barrier to learning. So many young people experiencing great dental pain and discomfort. So many of our newcomers who have never had any sort of dental care or treatment. And so many of our schools, as in an effort to close that gap in this disparity space, have had to bring dentists on site and have them there a number of days during the week in order to address this. So this is a critical issue, and it's one that is 100% preventable. So I thank our colleagues on the state level for their leadership. And the last thing that I would say is, not only is dental decay painful, but there are many adults who experience great stigma and discrimination in the workforce because their teeth are in such disarray. So this really is about the health of our families, our communities, and ultimately about our workforce and our economy and society as a whole. So again, I thank Horace Small for your activism, your advocacy, bringing it to our good counselor here, and thank you, Councilor O'Malley, for your leadership. I look forward to vigorously voting in the affirmative.
Thank you, Councilor Presley. At this time, Councilor O'Malley moves for suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 1060. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1060 has been adopted.
Docket number 1061, Councilor Zachem offered the following order for hearing regarding voter registration in the city of Boston.
Councilor Zachem, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Can people hear me? I don't know if we need to be sitting down with these. I'll sit. All right. Sounds better. I'll sound like my good colleague, Councilor O'Malley, and everyone can hear me. Thank you, Madam President, Madam Clerk. I've introduced here today is an order I think is incredibly important as we're hearing nationally from Washington about efforts for voter suppression to discourage people from exercising their franchise, from voting in city and local elections, state elections, federal elections. As we are coming into election season at the city right now, I know myself, I know all of my colleagues here know that we're expecting fairly low turnout. And there are many reasons for that, but one of the reasons that we can directly address is reducing barriers to voting and to the ballot box. And I think one of the best ways to do that is one, looking at ways we can lower the cutoff. Right now, there's a 20-day registration deadline in Massachusetts that's currently on hold due to litigation in court, but it's a law that's still on the books and that's being appealed. We also need to be looking at ways for the city of Boston to lead on this, to make sure that we are being innovative, to make sure that we're looking at opportunities for people when they have contact with the city, particularly when they're getting their resident parking permits, when they're registering for Boston Public Schools. People come into contact with our city a lot. And I think we need to make sure that when they're doing that, they give an opportunity to register to vote, that we can make sure that more people are doing this. Many states around the country have done this, have made it easier to register to vote on the same day voter registration. Wisconsin has had same day voter registration since 1975. And there is no way, as we sit here in Faneuil Hall, where we really, the beginning of American democracy, that we should not be talking about this in the year 2017. It's something that we need to do. I think, one, it's a civil rights issue. It's a human rights issue that people should be able to access the ballot box, but it's also good policy. If we're going to talk about being a representative democracy here at the City of Boston, we need to make sure that as many voices are there on Election Day, not just in this chamber, not just at committee hearings, not just at community meetings, but on Election Day, when many of these decisions are made. We need to be doing everything we can for that. You know, just as an example, you know, we talk about ways to increase turnout, maybe people will be energized because of the 2016 election, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the most, and this actually was an article in the Globe today, I don't know if it was in the hard copy, but it was online, about saying that under the heading of things that work, same-day registration being a bonus for democracy. You know, in Connecticut last year, an additional 35,000 people voted, and they were able to register on the same day. Judging by population, that would be 70,000 in Massachusetts. That's a huge number. We look at the margins in our state. I think we need to be doing that. So what I ask right now is that we look at opportunities for this. There are ways to do this cost effectively, ways that do not put up barriers, and ways that make sure that everyone who has a right to vote in the city of Boston is going to do that. I'm certainly hopeful that the state does away with that 20-day cutoff, and the state does move differently on that. But whether they do or not, we have an opportunity, one, to examine how to remove that just for the city of Boston, but also to make sure people have a better and easier opportunity registering to vote. So look forward to having a swift hearing on this and hopefully proposing some action. And I thought about holding off until the fall on this, but seeing as we're meeting here in Faneuil Hall, I thought it was important to talk about this here, where so much of what we do every day began so many years ago. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor Zachem. Madam Clerk, could you please add Councillor O'Malley's name? Please add Councillor Presley. Add Councillor Linehan. Please add the chair. Please add Councillor Sabi George, Councillor Siomo, Councillor Campbell, Councillor LaMattina.
That's all right. Go ahead.
And Councillor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I want to again compliment my colleague, Councillor Zachem, for his work in this space. In the 90s, I actually was at the University of New Hampshire, and the first time I voted for president was same-day voter registration. I find it odd that we live in a day and age where you can go and open a bank account today, put in money, and actually take it out in the same day, but our democracy doesn't work that efficiently. I think the flow that we should have in government should move at the speed of business, but also at the speed of democracy. Our most valuable franchise is to be able to vote, and we should not stand in the way of that. The courts have already said now that there is an impediment here. We should, instead of going back to making it 19 days or 18 days, we should step up and actually take a stand as a council and invite folks in. We also know that there are hundreds of thousands of young people who come here who have many of them who are eligible to vote and don't know that they are eligible. So same-day voter registration is a valuable part of democracy and enfranchisement in the city. And I would even go further to say that the automatic aspects of this and the opt-out component that Councillor Zachem brought up is something that we should also really think about. I went to school in New Hampshire. I don't want us to be behind them in terms of voting accessibility, and so I definitely want to make sure that we push forward strongly and swiftly on this while we have this opportunity. I think the City of Boston has an opportunity to lead in the state on this. Please add my name. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson. Madam Clerk, could you please add Councillor Jackson's name? Add Councillor Flaherty. I think you're adding Councillor Sabi George. Anyone else like to speak? Docket number 1061 will be assigned to the Special Committee on Civil Rights.
Docket number 1062, Councilor O'Malley offered the following order: for hearing to consider the benefits of net zero carbon requirements and incentives for future construction in the City of Boston.
Councillor O'Malley, you have the floor.
What happens when a new development comes into one of our districts? We work with the developers, we work with the community, we often ask for more affordability, we often will agree to certain density bonuses if we can exceed affordability limits. We often work to make sure the trees, the landscaping look great. If there's commercial, we want to make sure that local and nonprofits, locally owned and operated businesses get a shot of renting one of those spots. All good things, all important things. But one thing that we have left, and I say collective we, out of this conversation has been making sure that we're building the most energy efficient buildings that we possibly can. Today I'm introducing a city order which is the first in a very long series of steps to consider the benefits of net zero carbon requirements and incentives for future construction in the City of Boston. This order will protect the health of residents and visitors, as well as the city's environmental well-being and the threat of global climate change. It will commit to constructing buildings in which all carbon emissions are offset by renewable energy production. It will protect the long-term environmental health of the city by ensuring that the mayor's commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050. Recently, the Boston Clean Energy Coalition reached out to me, and I know many of you, to call attention to the issue of harmful environmental impacts of residential and commercial buildings. They asked me to moderate a forum in Jamaica Plain, which was incredibly well attended, where we learned a lot to see what some other cities have done. We also learned that buildings contribute to over half of Boston's greenhouse gas emissions and can be alleviated through net zero carbon. As Boston is quickly becoming susceptible to the impact of climate change with rising sea levels and extreme weather, we must lead in coming up with innovative and sustainable solutions. I know I throw a lot of numbers at all of you when we talk about these issues, but here's what I want you to remember. 7/11/1000. In the last 7 years, we have had 11 major weather events that have been called 1-in-1,000-year weather events. We've had 7 of them. We've had 11 of them in the last 7 years. Now, more than ever, there's a lack of leadership and outright hostility in Washington, D.C., hindering efforts to combat climate change. So cities are once again leading the way. Across the river in Cambridge, down in Austin, Texas, in Fort Collins, Colorado, and Palo Alto, California, they've already begun successfully implementing net zero strategic plans. And as we move forward in the construction of new buildings, we should not only consider the affordability, but also the carbon footprint of these, as well as other things that make buildings good. For every environmental issue I work on, I always reiterate that these solutions are not only good for the environment, good for the taxpayer and the ratepayer. Every fiscal conservative ought to be an environmentalist, and I'll get into more of this on something the Council President and I are doing a little bit later in this meeting. But suffice it to say, we've already seen some great examples. In the South End, Castle Square Apartments were built. It's the future of energy-efficient residential buildings. In 2011, energy retrofits undergone there of the 190 units ended up reducing energy usage by 72%. The complex now saves nearly $250,000 in annual energy savings after the efficiency upgrade. Boston Medical Center, right down the street from us. It's another example of an institution reducing its carbon footprint. BMC plans to be carbon neutral by next year, 2018. It has already reduced its emissions by 20% just through heating and ventilation upgrades. The campus's redesign poses to save up to $25 million annually on energy and operating costs. We've seen it on our street lights that are now energy efficient. We saw it 20 years ago when people started buying energy efficient light bulbs and realizing that they last 3, 4, 5, 10 times as long as the old CFC ones. We've seen it with low flow toilets. We've seen it with mini splits replacing the central air system. There are things that we can do that are better for construction costs and also better for the environment. This is the first in a long step. I hope we will be able to have a hearing in relatively short order and then begin the process, but we cannot wait any longer. Thank you for letting me go a little bit over time and look forward to action on this item ASAP.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Zakhem, you have the floor.
Councilor O'Malley for bringing this forward. I just want to say I know you were there with me just yesterday, Madam Council President, along with State Senator Will Brownsberger on a bit of a march, rally, sing-along through Back Bay, and with environmental activists ranging from the Sierra Club to the Mothers Out Front to the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay. And people were asking us about this measure in particular. There's a lot of support for it, a lot of support for the measure that's coming up next. I'll just say quickly that the next docket number has my support as well. I'm not going to talk on both of them. But I just want to say how important this is and how important it is not just, I think, for experts and for hearings and et cetera, but this is something that people are talking about around our neighborhoods right now because people are aware of those staggering statistics Councilor O'Malley just talked about, that this is something we need to address quickly. This is something that I do hear about day to day in many of my civic associations. People are not just talking about trash pickup and public safety and the typical municipal service issues that we spend a lot of our time on. Given the fact that the federal government is not acting at all, and in fact in many cases acting to the detriment of the environment and our future, Councilor O'Malley is 100% correct that it's on cities to act. I look forward to participating in this hearing and making sure that as the city continues to grow, we're going to do that sustainably. It's great that we're building. It's great that people want to be here. It's great that we have such a thriving city, but we need to be thinking about what's going to happen in the next 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years, and this goes a long way towards that. So please add my name. I want to again thank the sponsor for bringing this forward, and it's great to see so many important forward-thinking environmental dockets on the agenda today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zakhem. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Zakhem's name. And Councilor McCarthy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just want to thank Councilor O'Malley. I do want to sign on.
there's an old saying about timing is everything, and the timing is now. This is a perfect timing for this order to move forward with $5 billion worth of shovels in the ground as we speak, and another $3 billion up in the BPDA ready to go. This ordinance needs to move fast. So I'd like to sign on, and I look forward to an expedited hearing.
Thank you, Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor McCarthy's name. And Councilor Jackson, you have the floor. And then we'll do sign on. Sorry, everyone.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Councilor O'Malley. I'm sorry about that. I was going to thank Councilor McCarthy. But I want to thank Councilor O'Malley for his steadfast work in this space. We need to be a net zero community, and we need to actually lead in this space. This has to go into our development plans, our zoning code. When we speak about Boston 2030 and build BPS, this has to be the overarching mantra to the future of the city of Boston. We can call ourselves a progressive city, but until we have teeth in our progressive policies, then we are not where we need to be. And I want to thank Councilor O'Malley for his leadership and passion about all things environment. I worked for Governor Patrick, and he always used to say to us that we need to think about leaving it better than we found it, and this is a critical way for us to do that. I also think there's a component here that we don't think of. This is job creation. This is economic development, and this provides economic opportunity and vitality to the city. And we also should be thinking about how we retrofit other older buildings such as City Hall and the housing stock in the city of Boston, because what we know is those are one of the biggest places that carbon actually escapes from. And we point to cars most of the time, but buildings are, as we know, the places that that carbon escapes from most. And so again, thank you for your leadership on plastic bags, and thank you for your leadership on this net zero component. I look forward to an aggressive timetable for this, because it is time that we begin to save the future of the city of Boston. Thank you. Please add my name.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Jackson's name. And now please add Councilor Presley. Please add Councilor Linehan, Councilor LaMattina. Councilor Zegan was added previously. Please add Councilor Sabi George, Councilor Siomo, Councilor Campbell, and Councilor Baker. And Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Please add my name, and also through you to the maker of, I'm assuming it's not just new construction, that we're also considering renovations and rehabs, particularly given that we'll have CPA funds coming our way to help assist that. And just asked, again, through the chair, that the maker consider inviting Boston Landmarks Commission to attend, given that many times that when folks are renovating and making some repairs, landmarks oftentimes will inject themselves in the equation, and it would be nice to have their perspective as we're moving forward on this issue.
Great. You're receiving an affirmative nod from the other side of the table. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Flaherty's name. Please add the chair's name. And docket number 1062 will be assigned to the Committee on Environment and Sustainability.
Docket number 1063, Councilors Wu and O'Malley offer the following order: authorizing the City of Boston to adopt community choice energy. You can handle it.
Chair recognizes Councilor Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is the perfect segue into our next step that we're discussing, one more additional tool that the City of Boston could implement right away to fight climate change. So I want to thank Councilor O'Malley for partnering on this. We are excited today to add the official language, taking our hearing order from several months ago to the next level. We had a hearing back in April on the idea of community choice energy, also known as municipal aggregation. Just a summary, it essentially is a program that the state has created along with 6 other states across the country that empowers cities to make local energy decisions around their electricity supply. So we are proposing that Boston join the 98 other Massachusetts cities and towns that have already done this in switching off of the default Eversource plan and onto a new plan that the city would vet and have community process around. The benefit of doing so is that we can not only exercise more local control over this, but also add a green component. I want to thank the administration. The mayor has been such a strong proponent of making sure that Boston is right at the forefront nationally of green policy. Minutes after the Paris Accord, actually even before our President of the United States decision to withdraw us from the Paris Climate Accord, Boston was in the national news announcing that we would proceed no matter what. We have plans on the books around climate change and our aggressive goals. This measure is to emphasize that it's not enough just to think about adapting to what's going to happen. It's great to be moving all of our mechanicals in every new building from the ground floor up to the top, and to be adding rain gardens and more greenery to absorb rainwater. But for the safety of our planet, around environmental violence, for the safety of our neighborhoods, with the urban heat island effect, and so many other ways that climate change disproportionately hurts low-income residents and our most vulnerable seniors and those who are medically vulnerable, we have to do more to actually reverse climate change. So this program is about us taking a stand and saying we're not going to cede control over energy policy to the federal level. There is no policy happening around climate change at the federal level these days, as we've talked about. So this gives us the tool to do even more than required by DC and more than required by the State House as well. We are proposing with the language to have Boston take the first official step and ask for bids around a plan that would increase our renewable component by 5%. Some early estimates suggest that that would mean an additional 20 megawatts of clean energy demand, the equivalent of 20 of those large wind turbines. So we're helping the environment, we're doing our part as a city, but we're also creating green jobs and trying to make sure that those jobs are local. So again, there's a whole lot of process after this. This is just the first step for our consideration. We would have a hearing, then propose this for a vote at some point. If there's a positive vote, then there's further process going out to the community, going out for bid, involving state regulators. But we ask for your support in taking the first official step on this important policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Chair recognizes Council O'Malley, co-sponsor.
To begin by thanking the Council President, my dear friend. It's been great to partner with you on this and so many important initiatives. I will be brief because we have a busy afternoon planned, but I wanted to let you all in on a little secret. The City of Boston has won a number of awards for being environmentally courageous and showing leadership, and the secret is that we really don't deserve it yet, but we can. And a great first step to do that will be passing Community Choice Energy. This is something that has been worked to great success in other cities throughout the Commonwealth and really throughout the world, and you're seeing so much of what has happened as a result of this administration, as a result of the United States pulling out of the Paris Accords. Arizona, a state that's not known for being particularly environmentally audacious, has signed a similar, their Republican governor has signed a similar piece of bulk purchasing through the state that will get to 50% renewable energy sources from wind and solar. In so many cases, it is so much less expensive to do so. We've seen Chile going to some exorbitant percentage of renewable energy sources. We've seen India mandating that in the next 14 or 20 years, I forget what the number is, they will have 100% electric vehicles. We're seeing cities and towns and states and countries lead, and this is where it's up to all of us. Skeptics will say that this is going to cost ratepayers more money and we should blanch at this thing. And the fact of the matter is there are certain instances where it could cost more money, just as there are certain times where it will cost less money. But there's also safeguards in place that Melrose, for example, just used, which opted into CCA, is putting the pause button on for now because. So there are things that we can do to affect real change while protect our ratepayers. Thank you again, Council President, for your leadership, your friendship on this. Look forward to continuing the work that we began in this in January, a very productive working session in April, and we're going to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Council O'Malley. Anybody wish to sign the name? Council Flaherty, Council Asabi George, Council Siomo, Council Campbell, Council Jackson, Council Lamontina, Council McCarthy, Council Zachem. Anybody wish to speak on this? Chair recognizes Council Jackson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It is refreshing to hear from a president who understands that climate change is real. Thank you. Thank you, President Wu. Again, Councilor O'Malley, thank you for your leadership here. Community choice energy is simply the right thing to do. And it is the right time to do it, but we also must lead as a city. And so we can't ask the private sector to do things that we're not doing. And so it is critical that the city of Boston use the resources, the significant resources that we have that come from the people to do what is right by the people. Typically, we are using our bully pulpit, but this gives us an opportunity to use our dollars that makes sense. And it's about time that we stop talking about these concepts and actually do something about it. And I agree with Councilor O'Malley. We can't get the kudos and the pat on the back yet. It is a requirement that we put forward legislation to actually do right by the people of the city of Boston. I would note, when we think about cost, there are several-fold bottom lines to cost. It is the right thing to do, but I would submit to you that one of the most expensive things that could happen is Hurricane Sandy. And what can and will occur is, if we are not aggressive as a coastal city on issues of the environment, we will push forward and cost ourselves and the people in which the people, communities, and folks that we represent millions and millions of dollars by not being thoughtful. We have to lead nationally, but we have to lead because we are a coastal city, and this will affect us quicker, faster, and in more extreme fashion than other cities. So I look forward to working on this. Please add my name, and again, thank you for the leadership of President Wu as well as Councilor O'Malley. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. With no other speakers, Madam Clerk, will you please send 1063 to Environment and Sustainability?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Docket number 1064, Councilor Asabi George offered the following ordinance to provide safe disposal for home-generated sharps.
Councilor Sabi George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to propose an ordinance to provide for safe disposal of sharps. First, I'd like to thank Christine O'Donnell from Central Staff for all of her help on this, as this is the first ordinance we've filed. Christine's been an incredible asset to my office, and I'm sure there'll be more to come for this process, but I just want to thank Christine early on, because we're going to ask for more help going forward. So this past April, Councilor Baker, Councilor McCarthy, and I held a hearing on sharps disposal and discovered that over the course of a year, the city has collected 20,000 needles from our parks, alleys, playgrounds, and libraries. 20,000 needles. And that's just the ones that we've counted. After that hearing, I went on a ride-along with the city's mobile sharps team as they responded to 311 calls from across the city. From the Boston Common to playgrounds in Hyde Park, from parks in Roxbury to alleys in the South End, from East Boston to Brighton, there isn't a corner of the city that they haven't been to. This small team does amazing work, not only cleaning up needles that they find, but also acting as de facto outreach workers, connecting with people and directing them to services across the city. I was proud to advocate for increased resources for this team, and I'm grateful that the fiscal year 18 budget was able to double the size and the capacity of this mobile sharps team. But the reality is we need to do more, and we need more help. Pharmacies directly profit from the sales of sharps, and it's time that they start contributing to the solution. One of the things I've learned throughout this process is that there are lots of reasons why someone may use sharps legally. Maybe they need it for their pets, or maybe they need it for home medical treatment. My father had diabetes, a disease whose numbers are soaring, and I remember him putting his used insulin needles in coffee containers. And the city needle exchange program has gotten calls from those that are having diabetes or suffering from chronic medical conditions, but also from pet owners whose cats and dogs require some sort of injectable medication. But clearly we have a problem. Retail pharmacies all over the city sell these needles. But in the entire city of Boston, there are only 9 locations where you can dispose of them safely and for free. We need to do more to make that easier and make safe disposal much more available. This ordinance will do exactly that. First, it requires pharmacies to take back the used sharps that they sell. Second, it requires that when pharmacies sell and distribute sharps, they include verbal and written instructions about how to safely dispose of them, which will certainly raise public awareness. Third, it asks pharmacies to inventory the sharps that they collect and provide that information to the City of Boston. Last, it directs revenue from the fines to the Mayor's Office of Recovery Services. I know that this increase in sharps litter, the increase in sharps litter is a direct result of the opioid crisis, and that if we didn't have this crisis, that we wouldn't have a problem to this same scale. But this is a step in the right direction that will both raise awareness and improve access to free and safe disposal of sharps for everyone in the city. I believe that we need to take this action where we can, including this step. I look forward to an expedited and productive process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sabi George. Madam Clerk, could you please add Councillor Presley's name and Councillor O'Malley, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor LaMattina, Councillor Linehan, Councillor Baker, Councillor Flaherty, Councillor Siomo, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Jackson. Please add the chair's name. Docket number 1064 will be assigned to the Committee on Government Operations. Personnel orders.
Docket number 1065, Councilor Wu for Councilor Zachem.
Councillor Zachem moves for suspension and passage of docket 1065. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1065 has been passed.
Docket number 1066, Councilor Wu for Councilor Zachem.
Councillor Zachem moves for suspension and passage of docket 1066. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1066 has been passed.
Docket number 1067, Councilor
Chair moves for
Wu.
suspension and passage of docket 1067. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Docket 1067 has been passed. There are no late filed matters to be added to the agenda, but 3 items for the consent agenda, which will be added in the absence of objection. Hearing none, those are added, and Chair moves adoption of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Consent agenda is adopted. Would anyone like to pull a matter from the green sheets? Councillor Zachem, you have the floor.
Madam President, I would like to pull docket 1003. It is on page 6 of 10.
Madam Clerk, could you please read docket 1003, page 6 of 10 into the record?
Thank you, Madam President. In the Committee on Housing and Community Development, docket number 1003, sponsored by the Mayor, message and order amending a grant of the City of Boston, acting through its Department of Neighborhood Development, to apply for, accept, and expend an additional $414,377, increasing a grant award passed by this honorable body on June 21st, 2017, for $1,600,000. This order will increase the federal fiscal year 2017 Emergency Solutions Grant Program to $2,014,377 in housing and community development funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD. This matter was referred to committee on July 12, 2017.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Docket 1003, now properly before the council, pulled off the green sheets by the committee chair. Councillor Zachem, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This speaks for itself in the docket description. We passed an order earlier in the summer for a smaller grant amount, and surprisingly, very surprisingly, I would say, under the current climate, HUD has awarded us several $100,000 more. So I think it is in the interests of this body and in our city to pass this order for the amended amount so that this money can quickly get into the hands of the folks at D&D put to work to help our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zachem. Councillor Zachem moves for passage of docket 1003. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and docket 1003 has been passed. Any other takers for the green sheets? Seeing none, we'll pause for any statements or announcements from the group. Wonderful. Then at this point, I would like to invite all guests and counselors to please rise. Today, the City Council will adjourn our meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Flaherty, Felicia Ahern. For Councilor LaMattina, Robin McCormick DeMeo. For Councilor Zakim, Andres Cruz. For Councilors Flaherty and Asabi George, Edward J. Studley. And for Councilors McCarthy and O'Malley, Timothy White. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Chair moves that when the council adjourns today, we do so in memory of the aforementioned individuals. We're scheduled to meet again Wednesday, August 23rd at 12 noon at Faneuil Hall. All in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Council is adjourned.